How's it going, guys? And welcome back. Okay, today we are talking with none other than Irene Tan, the whiskey mentor herself. And today we're going to have a little conversation about obviously whiskey, but we're just going to dive into life and what it's like to be Irene. How's it going, Irene?
Good. Well, it's busy, 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 but lots of fun while we're being busy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for the people who might not know you, people living under a rock, obviously, tell our listeners a little bit about what you do, and we can go from there.
Sounds good. All right. So I can't, what I do, I can't call a hobby anymore. It was a hobby until recently. So my day job, I'm a software engineer. I've been a software consultant for 39 years. And about 10, 12, 11 years ago, I got into the liquor store business because I needed a place to store my 1,200 bottles of wine. And I was like, yeah, I should just store in a store instead. But very quickly after, I got involved in taking care of all the whiskey in the store. And within a year, I amassed this huge wall of whiskey that I wish I still had in my store. So learned a lot from there. And the last 4.5 years or so, just before COVID, somebody gave me a crystal ball, I swear, and said, buy a liquor store, buy your own liquor store. So I did. And quickly amass over 100 something single barrels of whiskey, rum, pretty much all the spirits, gin, you name it, we have it. And also while I was doing that, in my mind, I was like, well, it's great that you can buy single barrels of whiskey. Being able to pick a really good single barrel whiskey, if you have the palate and the nose for it, becomes kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. Literally, it's that easy. So I was a little bit bored with that, and I said, I think I need to blend. And part of the blending thing came about because I love to cook and make things out of nothing, basically. And one of my first blends for the store was a big 15-year cask strength. So it was a good opening statement for me when I previously would go to other distilleries and go, well, your whiskey's not very good. Can I blend? They look at me like I had three heads. I go, but Whistle Pig let me blend. They're like, what? Okay, you can blend. But clearly, my blends were working out well to the point where now distilleries are approaching me instead of me approaching them to blend. So that's in a nutshell.
Yeah, that to me is pretty amazing how you can go from not even being into it and just being like, hey, let's open a liquor store, and then next thing you know, you're literally blending for people because you've become well known in that, that to me is something that, like, a lot of people in the whiskey industry, that's what they aspire to, even if they're just collectors or whatever you want to call them. That's kind of what they aspire to. They want to have a job, quote unquote, in whiskey somewhere. I know, we know people that are blenders and the coopers and all of the stuff. It's just cool to have your foothold in that whiskey market. So kind of walk us through. I one of my things for this year was to do a barrel pick. That was kind of one of my goals for this year. Kind of walk us through what it takes to do a barrel pick for you especially.
Okay, so, well, I've become quite picky in recent times. Previously, before the whole whiskey craze, it would be that basically the distiller should send out a bunch of samples, to Rio reps and stuff. And I remember there was a time when we could have as many Russell's Reserve barrels as we wanted, or as many Four Roses barrels as, it's like, would you like a few more? I'm like, well, at the time, no, but now, yes. So that still does happen, where they still send you samples, but I have taken a step further because the samples are the samples. Sometimes they're really good. Don't get me wrong. I've picked a bunch of samples, especially during COVID, that, a bunch of barrels that came from samples. But typically I like to go and visit the distillery, right? Even though I've tasted kind of what they have, but it's it's kind of unfair. It's different because of where I've come from now, that when I go to the distillery, it's a different treatment than if any, regular store owner would walk into the distillery and go, I want to do this. And they're like, no, you get, get these 3 barrels to select from, or 2 barrels, whatever it is. And we're going to expect you to pick one. But that doesn't happen in my case, right? Because if it's not good, I don't want it. What else you got? And can I blend? Or let's go play in the rick house and, let's run through 20 barrels until I find the one I really like.
Right.
So it's a different experience for me picking barrels now after I've been doing for so many years. But for the average, store owner or group, I would say the best thing you can do is really build a good relationship with whatever distillery that you want to buy whiskey from, right? Because you kind of have to build this kind of trust thing where you're not just there to, pick the best stuff and then run away. You want to build a relationship where, maybe every year, every other year, you may want another barrel from them because they make really good whiskey, and you kind of help promote them that way. Right. So that should be really helpful. But then also, if they do give you, say, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 samples, and all of them suck, which does happen, you need to be able to say no and walk away. So that's a hard part for most people. Yeah. It's like, well, we came all the way here to pick this barrel. And I was like, that is the downside of, going out to pick the barrel is if you don't have the relationships that I have where I can go, no, not good enough. What else do we have? Then you can't do that. So you have to go with the either knowing that if you say no, you may never get a barrel again from this distillery, which does happen, right? And I've been known to have rejected Sazerac, so I'll never see a Sazerac barrel, and that's okay.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
it hurts a little bit, but yeah, I get it.
I mean, there's so much good whiskey out there. There really is. That we don't have to be, held hostage by these big distilleries that say, you're going to come here, you're going to do this. And I was like, no, I'm coming here on my own dime, right? On my own time. So don't push me around.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the larger distilleries that I have reached out to, and for this, they're like you said, we give you 2 or 3 samples, you pick from those, and if you don't like it, too bad. Yeah. And they're like, hurry up, we have 10 other people waiting in line. So it's like, it's not one of those things where it's on your time. You just kind of are, and you're hesitant and you're scared and you're like, oh God. And so you just pick one, and guess what? It ends up not being the best one or something like that. So yeah, it's really difficult to turn down a larger distillery, especially, and say, no, this isn't quite right for my profile. So that's very commendable that you're willing to do that, because a lot of people would just be like, just give me a, just so I can slap a tater sticker on the back of it and say that it's a Elijah Craig barrel proof pick,
Yeah. Although on that note, actually, good segue. Elijah Craig, Heaven Hill is one of the big guys, that one of the best guys for me to work with. They've been awesome. Yeah. And we won't name the other guys, well, we already named some of them, but and also, I mean, as a retailer, sometimes, well, if you support the brand and all of their core products, right, then they're more willing to give you some stuff. So some distillers tell me, well, you don't sell enough of our core stuff. But the difference for me and most of the other retailers is, one, my store is in the middle of nowhere. It's a destination that I built in the middle of nowhere. You have to really want to come to my store, right? But if you're a whiskey fan and you need to go to Whiskey Disneyland, that's where you come. So the store proper is only 1,000 square feet, so it's tiny, and so every bottle fights for a spot on the shelf. So I don't have time or space for a core product that doesn't meet my standard, right? So if you tell me I have to carry, sell all of your SKUs, say you have 6 core products I have to sell before I can even get a barrel, I'm like, no, you know what? How about you just make your core product better? Then I'll have to buy a barrel of it. I'd be really happy buying, regular whiskey that just tastes good.
Yep, absolutely.
Then you're not committing, anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 on a barrel that now you're out all that money until you sell it. You don't get your money back.
Right.
So so I've told quite a few distilleries, make your core better, and then we'll talk.
And how do they respond to that?
They just go disappear for a while, and then I call them back and go, "So, got anything for me to pick?" And they're like, "Yeah, just come pick some barrels."
Because that's the thing. Like, whiskey's whiskey, but good whiskey's good whiskey, and it doesn't matter what it is. And if you're gonna, flop on some product that should be $30, I don't want to buy the $100 bottle from you either. So it's like, it's one of those things. And building, I get, like you were talking about, the relationship and building that relationship with the distillery, with the head distiller, with all those people. That is big in whiskey in general to begin with.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your store, actually, because I know that you did a video or two with the Whiskey Tribe, having them come up there and look at the store. This was a while back, obviously. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the video, the top 8 things I hate about liquor store, what to do about it, that video was shot in my old store.
Yes.
Because the day that they came to shoot the video, this was a few months after I thought I was going to buy my store, and it just dragged on until 1:00 the afternoon. So we shot the video in the morning in my old store because I didn't have keys to my new store yet, because I was just going to go to my attorney's office and sign all the paperwork. So that's why we ended the video with going to see the outside of the store, and then we threw a party next door, because that's how we roll. So the store is so when I got the store, it was really for me a chance to kind of bring in the products that I care about. Right. Sure, we have to sell, some of the regular stuff, because, you have to still support your local community. But it was about creating, I don't really like the word boutique, because we're not. But yes, we do have some really crazy special bottles. Right. It's basically, the reason I bought as many barrels as I did, it's also, I want a good whiskey at every price point. So I have, I love the Elijah Craig small batch. We bought 2 or 3 barrels of that because it's like under $40. So any day, anytime when you just want to drink whiskey that's good, share with friends, that's a great bottle, right? And then every $10 or $5, increase, we have another bottle that is, different. And so depending on the price point, so when people come, we always ask, what kind of whiskey do you like? And of course, my favorite question is when they go, I don't like rye. And I'll make sure I send them home with some rye. And almost always it happens that way. Yeah. So the store proper is only, like I said, 1,000 square feet. We have a tiny beer, cooler, basically, that we stock. Really, really nice beers. My manager, Jen, does a great job keeping it really fresh and interesting. And we rotate a lot of stuff out. And then we have a wine rack area where not almost every single wine that's on that rack, my manager and I have tasted with the rep. So we don't just bring wine in because it has a good name, right? Unless I've had it before and I go, okay. But anything else new, we taste every single bottle so we can talk about it, what would it pair with, and all of that. Yeah. Then yes, we have a section where we carry all the bulky stuff, which we reduced to less than half of when we started. And our spirits wall runs the entire length of the store. Starts with all of the whiskeys, and then we go to gin. In fact, we have, because I'm a huge gin fan also, we have more gin SKUs than we have vodka SKUs, and that's just kind of underground store. Yeah. So, and we'll find alternatives for certain, even certain vodkas that we rather carry than the normal brands, just because it's that much bigger. And we have our version of a well tequila, so to speak, if we were a bar, that's not your usual stuff. And so what's good is, one of the things that I've always wanted to do is always let people taste stuff before they buy, especially when you're spending $80 to $100 to $200 a bottle. If it's something that I have more than a few of, I would always go, hey, because I want to know what it tastes like. Right. So it's always about the tasting experience. And so at any given time, if you all want to come visit, it's after 12 p.m. that we can taste. And we close at 7 during the week and 8 o'clock on the weekends. Our tasting hours are 12 to 7 or 12 to closing, basically. Right. And technically, we can only let you taste 4 things. So choose wisely. Choose wisely. But I can, in our tasting room next door, which I'm usually, if I'm not traveling, I'm there usually on Fridays and Saturdays from noon to 5. Okay. And that's when some people make appointments with me to say, hey, we want to bring, 4 or 5 people or whatever. try to keep it under 10 for those events, just because it gets a little bit rowdy otherwise.
Yeah, it does. Yes, it does.
And in our tasting room, literally, it's lined with barrels, and on top of the barrels are all the whiskeys, cases of whiskeys and bottles of whiskeys. Literally, you know how when people take level 1, they have vault paralysis. It's kind of same thing in liquor store. Single barrel paralysis.
Right.
And we'll taste through some whiskeys, and then, you know, like to kind of ask questions of people, like what did like, what did they not like, what did they want to try, and there's no pricing in the tasting room, because it's about the tasting experience. So I don't want you to have this you know, price tag in your head going, oh my God, what if I like that and I can't afford it, right?
Yeah.
So whiskeys, and then especially if it's a bigger group, because it can get a little bit rowdy. So what I always do is I go, look, it's no pressure to buy, right? I'm going to give you all a box each, like a 6-pack. If you need a 12-pack, I'll give you a 12-pack box. Whatever you taste, if you like, you're going to grab all and put it in the box. And then at the end of the tasting, you can go, oh shit, I have like 18 bottles, or, you know, nobody has nothing in their box.
Right.
And then you can decide then, you know, what, you know, everything in the box is what you like. Then you can go, okay, what are the prices? Then we can talk prices.
Right.
Which still, for me, I still don't know what the prices are, because I knew what they were when I was 20 barrels deep. Now I'm over 100, and, you know, no longer important. It's irrelevant, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So usually when Cliff comes to hang out with me on some Fridays, he'll go, I'll go check prices for you. Cliff is one of our other Whiskey Soms, Connecticut Whiskey. We had 3 Whiskey Soms in Connecticut.
Yeah,
very
that's awesome.
Level 2, 3, and 4. I'm trying to recruit a few more level 1s.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have the whole gamut up there of
I know, right? The smallest states with the most Whiskey Soms. So
exactly. That's really cool, because getting the experience of that, because like you said, you know, you're always like, hey, that bottle looks cool, I've never had it before, but I don't want to spend $100 on it if I can't try it. Like, what if it sucks? Which more than likely, I mean, there's some whiskey out there that just sucks, yes, but like most of the time you're going to be able to drink it. It's not that. And normally the price point does kind of factor in its goodness, or whatever you want to call it, but that doesn't mean it always, you know, because I've had some pretty expensive bottles that are not that great. So, you know, it just kind of depends. And it's cool that y'all are able to do that. I actually recently went to Santa Fe, and they had it was a little liquor store right there in almost downtown in the square. And they had the same thing. And I said, hey, they had the Single Cask Nation. They did a pick of something.
That's nice.
And I said, hey, I've never had that. He goes, hey, I have it back here in the bar if you want to try it. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go try it. And so I ended up picking up the bottle. I was going to pick it up either way, because I'd never seen a Single Cask Nation. But, you know, I was like, hey, let's go try it. And it was a really great barrel. So
that's great.
Yeah. So
Joshua does a great job. I mean, it's funny, when I met Joshua Hatton years ago, and he used to sell, come to my store, my old store, to sell me whiskey. And invariably he'd leave with more whiskey than he sold me. He goes, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this picture here.
Absolutely. Because that's what you want. When you want people coming in the store, you want them, obviously you want them buying, but you want them buying happy. You don't want them to be regretting what they're buying when they're walking out. I have had a couple regret buys after the fact, and then I was like, you know what? It is what it is. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, because I hadn't told the listeners that you are actually a level 4 whiskey sommelier. Let's talk a little bit about that part of it. You've came for classes, you've done you know, stuff like that. Talk a little bit about that. Like everyone knows that I'm a level 3, but going to the level 4, that just kicks it up another notch. Is that true?
Yeah, it really does. It's the one level you can fail, right? Which puts the fear of God in everybody. Like, oh my God, why are we going to do this?
Absolutely.
My sanity, but I knew I had to do it. It was just a challenge. Always love a challenge. And so there's 5 different, you know, components of level 4, which for each component you have to get at least 70 points and above. So you have to for the written part, obviously there's a multiple choice a long multiple choice that by the time you get to level 4, if you still don't know your crap, you should not be taking the test.
Absolutely.
You should be able to kind of breeze through it. It's funny, Jason Souter and I he's been teaching it for a while, and I've just been talking about it in my store. So we both kind of like flew through the multiple choice and never looked back. And then when we got our scores, we're like, damn it, we missed 1 or 2. Like, what did we miss? So we should have gone back. I was like, don't care, because that was kind of the next to the last parts before you do the practical part, the blind tasting portion of it, which is, I think, the part that probably scares people the most, right? Because there's a service portion of it where you're at a bar trying to recommend, basically becoming a bartender,
right?
And then there's a vault tour where you can, take people through different whiskeys, different regions and stuff like that. And then there's a food pairing portion of it where they'll give you a menu to, beforehand, and then a bunch of whiskeys so that you get to go, okay, with this food, this is what would go and stuff like that. So you need to be able to be able to whatever you recommend, you have to be able to support your reasons. It doesn't have to be right or wrong. It just has to be, you have to be, convincing about why you think, this certain whiskey would go so well with whatever food you're trying to, have your customer have. So,
right.
Sorry, this just smells so good. This is my latest blend from Kings County. We just launched last weekend. So I'm like, I'm feeling thirsty.
We're gonna get it. We're fixing to get into that here in a second.
So the last part, the tasting portion of the blind tasting portion, basically you get 12 whiskeys that you don't have to get the conclusion right. If you do, that's great. Kudos, bonus points. But the whole idea is to be able to evaluate the whiskey correctly. So to look at it and be able to write all your tasting notes on it. So if you smell it and taste it and you're thinking it's a rye, then you have to write supporting reasons to why you think it's a rye, or why you think it's a single malt, or what country it's from. And they don't give you something weird. So it's about really paying attention to tasting your whiskey, and by level 4 you get enough practice. That and you have that list ahead of time, obviously, but there's 50 or 60 whiskeys, and it can be 12 from that list. So that's the part I think everybody freaks out about. And but if you trust your instincts and definitely practice, I would say, do the comparisons, do your blind tastings, and when I say blind tastings, literally you really don't swallow the whiskey, because you're going to trash your palate if you do, right? I mean, the novice move would be, oh, I need to taste them all and, really taste them and swallow them. And it's like, nah, you can't do that. I mean, for how many barrels did I pick when I'm on the road? I mean, like when I was at Old Elk, they gave me 17 barrels to pick from, and all cask strength, right? So they're like, hey, we got all the samples for you in case you want to taste them all. Like, no, I'll taste and spit them all. And then you have to have a kind of some methodology in your head as to how you're going to eliminate what it's not going to meet your standards. But that takes years of practice, obviously, to get to that state. So.
Absolutely. That's crazy. Okay, so you brought it up earlier. Let's get into the King's Code, because that to me is really intriguing. Tell us a little bit about that. You're on iteration 2 already, so tell us a little bit about how that came into fruition.
Damn, this is so good. I wish you could have a sip of this. So King's Code. King's Code is a project that I'm collaborating with Kings County Distillery in Brooklyn, New York. The story goes that I didn't used to like the whiskey years and years ago because they weren't very good. They were very small barrels and they were very expensive. Fast forward, from like 2015 to 2020. And all of a sudden they make much better whiskey. So I picked really, really good barrels from them. So they got to know me. And somewhere along the way, about 2 years ago, they came to me and they said, hey, maybe you can source some whiskey and make us some whiskey. I was like, sure. What are you going to make? Don't know, don't care. We know you're going to make something good. And that was that.
Wow.
So as I guess if you're an artist, you have basically been given a blank canvas to paint, and very exciting but very scary, right? Because what the hell are you gonna paint? So I just kind of trusted my instincts of not having to have 36 colors. I think I can work with 3 or 4.
Right.
So I didn't. When I went out to buy barrels, I was going to Scotland at the time anyway that summer, and so I was going to Springbank School for a week. So I said, all right, I'll make a slightly bigger trip out of it. I'll go to Islay. Pretty sure I won't be able to buy anything from Islay Scotch wise, but we'll see. And totally didn't find anything on Islay, but made some good connections. Then I was in Campbeltown, not much there in terms of what they have to sell.
Right.
But other distilleries definitely had some interesting stuff. But I went to Cork, Ireland first. That was my first trip because by then I had already bought, I think it was at least 3 barrels of Clonakilty Irish whiskey, about 6-8-year-old stuff, all fantastic. So I was like, wow, this is really, really good stuff. Because when people think of Irish whiskey, they always think of, it's kind of blah. There's not much to it, and they're drinking, regular Jameson, the Tullamore Dew, the base, Bushmills and stuff, kind of shiny whiskey. But you move it a little, level up to like a Redbreast, then you're talking, okay, that's way better tasting stuff. So I bought 3 barrels from them. One was a River Salt cask finish, which is like a red wine, dessert wine finish. I named it Christmas cake because it was really, really tasty. It was like a dessert at Christmas. And then the second one was a pork cask finish. So they do a lot of, while they were waiting for their own distillate to age, they basically source whiskey, not sourcing whiskey, as long as you say where it comes from and all that. So they were very, very skillful in using really nice casks to finish their whiskeys. So the third one I got from them after the pork cask was the sherry Oloroso cask, and that was beautiful. So I said, all right, they have good whiskey. I'm going to go visit. So nobody kind of knew much about Clonakilty at the time, but in the less than 8 months or less than a year, I bought 3 barrels from them. So they all of a sudden they're like, hey, who's this person buying barrels from us? So I said, I'm going to buy a few more barrels. So flew over there. Literally, I think I only stayed 2 nights. Now I'm like down to 1 night wherever I go. Like I went to Finland for 1 night, went to San Francisco for one night, just buying whiskey and then getting the hell out of there. Right? Not because I'm not going to enjoy the place, but I got many places to visit. So when I was there, I picked some really nice barrels. One is a Sauternes cask finish, which is Chateau de Chem. And so that is actually 18% of the whiskey that went into my King's Code, one, Riona. And then the rest of the whiskeys were from Virginia Distillery. So what happened was I picked a bunch of barrels from them. I think it was a rum cask finish. There was a PX, an Oloroso, and of course the Sauternes. And I really, really wanted the 15-year this one over here, this beautiful bottle. But they're like, no, this is too good. We can't sell it to you in bulk. We have to bottle it. So I was going to buy half of my store and then put the other half, in my blend. So nope, couldn't do that. So I was a little annoyed I couldn't do that because I was like, well, I was trying to. So even though I'm somewhat new to blending whiskey, I've got a good palate for it. So I kind of know the components that are going to make it have a good nose, a good palate, and a good finish. So with a really young whiskey, to me, really young means 4 to 6 years old, it was going to be really difficult to get a really good finish on the whiskey.
Right.
So all the Irish head I had was not enough to make a good blend. So happened to have a Virginia single malt, my barrel called Breakfast Malt show up a few weeks before. So I'm walking around my tasting room going, I think maybe I'll try this. Maybe this will work. And sure enough, it was amazing. So what I found in blending it when I'm just kind of randomly putting stuff together is when it's just almost the right proportions, the nose is amazing. It just pops. You're like, all of a sudden you're like, wow. It's like you walked in the kitchen and they had just got done searing, your steak or something or whatever it is like.
Yeah.
But it's that perfect nose. So I let my manager of the store and a couple of customers taste it, and they're like, what is this? This is really good. I'm like, yeah, that's all right. Never mind. Let me go talk to Virginia. So I called them and I said, hey, can you guys sell me whiskey in bulk? And initially I thought, oh, we don't know. So then they came back. They go, when do you want to come to visit? So less than a month later, I was in Virginia, trying a whole bunch of whiskeys that Amanda had picked out for me.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, I will buy that one, that one, that one, that one. So I ended up buying 4 ex-bourbon casks from them. I had an SDR cask, which was amazing, and a PX sherry and Oloroso sherry. So that's a lot of barrels.
Yes,
And this, when I visit, they treat me with a little respect, because not everybody just goes and buy all those barrels unless you're like a wine or something, But
right.
so the first so now I have the equivalent of 15 barrels of whiskey, all good tasting whiskey. And so then how do you decide what you put in it? So the distillery is like, well, just like throw them all together and make. I'm like, no, that's beautiful. I need to, like, in my mind, separate the flavors and stuff. So what I did was I tasted every whiskey, graded it as to how good they were on my scale.
Right.
And then I said, all right, I wrote like one outstanding note about each whiskey. And based on that, I said, okay, you guys are going to play together. So in the first blend, Riona, there's the STR cask I used for the nose. The ex-bourbon and the PX sherry from Virginia I used for the middle of the palate. So it dragged the pretty red fruit and the slightly darker fruit from the PX, and the more familiar ex-bourbon notes through the middle. And the idea was to have the Sauternes cask show up in the back, because Sauternes wanted to be very aggressive, and so I had to dial it back to about 18%. So now all the kind of the white peach, nectarine kind of notes are in the back of the whiskey. So you get like a nice, it's like as if you walk through like a farmer's market and they had all this fresh fruit. And that was the experience that I wanted, the Riona to give to people. And luckily, after batting it for at least 8 weeks, she actually had a bit of a finish. She didn't originally, but her nose is huge and so pretty. And the palate is really, really big. It kind of is very, it dances on your palate quite a bit. It's very full palated, so you can taste it all over the roof of your mouth. The whole tongue is just going, holy crap, what did I just taste here? And so we called it Riona because it's Gaelic for queen. And I'm working with Kings County, and I'm the queen of whiskey. So that was kind of a fun name thing that we put together. And we kind of color coded it because it had the Irish that made it pop in the end. So that's why it was green. So then was off to the next blend, which is and it's called King's Code because of my day job. I'm a developer, and that's why on the bottle, if you get a chance to see it online, it's actually a bunch of code. It's like blending formulas, not what went into the blend, but which is something we came up with, and it was pretty slick. So the second one, since I used what I thought was my best whiskey for the first one, I go, now I'm going to make the second one better, right? Took a little bit of work, but I ended up I had to get permission from Douglas Lang, because I bought a single barrel of Kalila from them, a 12-year, which was really, really nice. It's Kalila for me from Isla is definitely more smoky and less peaty.
Yeah.
And so the reason I ended up using the Kalila was because the Marsala cask was even a worse actress than the Sauternes cask. It just streaked down the middle and just kind of left you numb. And I was like, oh crap, I have a lot of this. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to slap it into tomorrow. So Smoke and Peat came to mind. And luckily, with only 4% of it in the blend, it took care of it. It somehow managed to scrape all of the stinginess from the Marsala barrel and smooth it out. So it kind of lifted it off the palate and kind of coated it with oil instead. It was really kind of neat. And then what else is in that barrel? Oh, so then I wanted a little extra because originally I really wanted the 15-year in it. So I actually sold the bottles back to my project at cost and added 31 bottles of the 15-year, which just made the note. And so it's only 3% off blend, but it gave it a much nicer finish. It played really nice with the smoke, so now we're 7% of that whiskey is 12 to 15 years old, and it gave it a beautiful nose. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy how adding just a touch of this, and of course you're talking 3% of a pretty good batch, but like just and I talk about blending all the time, and like you want to do it on such a small scale with small increments because you don't know, even especially if you're adding smoke or something like that, it can overpower really fast. So it's super cool that it was able to lift up the stinginess of the Marsala. It's just crazy how those flavors can kind of interact with each other. Were these all cask strength that you were blending?
Yep. Yeah. So the first barrel, the first King's Code was 120.2 or 0.6, I think. And this one's 59. My Anton Par is quite accurate. I said it's about 119. Yep, it's 59.5. So,
wow.
Yeah,
that's so cool that you're able to do that. You're able to keep it at cask strength, but yet still give it all the flavors that are rolling through it. That's an amazing thing. Okay, so what was I going to say now? So you're only selling this in store, is that correct?
What's that?
You're only selling the King's Code?
No, so actually King's Code is available online. I don't know whether the second one is online yet, but you can buy it from Kings County Distillery online. So you can get it wherever. Yeah. Same price, cool. Whether you buy it from me or buy it from them, it doesn't matter. Okay, cool.
Well, I will have a link to that in the description below for sure if people want to go pick it up, if it's not already sold out by the time this comes out, depending.
There were 800 bottles of the first one. Mm-hmm. And then there was, I think, about maybe 900 and change of the second. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so
there was. Right. I sold at least 120 in my store of the first one, so.
That's awesome. And so you get pretty good business at the store. Is that correct?
We do. It's funny. I do have my locals, but a lot of my business is out of state. I have plenty of whiskey somms and other people who will come and basically go, okay, we're taking a video of this. We're tasting this. Is really good. What do you want to buy? So my whiskey gets mailed everywhere in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. That to me is crazy. I mean, you're in Connecticut, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, being from Texas, you're like from out of state. That could be 30 minutes away. So that's not too far. But yeah, no. And you've actually done barrel picks with some Texas whiskeys. Is that correct?
I think I'm probably the single retailer that's bought from the most distilleries in Texas.
Really?
Yeah. So I started with Garrison Brothers back when nobody knew kind of who they were. Helped put them on the map in Connecticut. Right. I mean, I bought 22 barrels from them, and then I bought some from Devil's River, and kind of changed quite a few people's mind about Devil's River. They're like, "It's Devil's River." I'm like, "Oh, but wait till you taste my Devil's River barrels. They're really, really good." Right. And then I bought a barrel from My Lemon Green, which is really Tennessee whiskey. It's Dickel without the Dickel note, which was very exciting for me.
Right.
Yeah. And then who else do I have? Who else do I have from Texas? Oh, Lone Elm. Well, I did a blend for them, and I had a couple of single barrels from them. And Andalusia should be up and coming. My barrel Striker is striking. We tasted it last year in October, and there was a retailer from Galveston that was there to taste their triple. I think it was the triple distill, and it was in a wine barrel, a port barrel. So I tasted mine. I was like, it's just missing some stuff here, and it needed some roundness. So, it's kind of happened that Ty was intonating both of us barrel tasting. And so while they were talking, I got a sample of theirs and I started blending on the fly, and it became a beautiful nose. And I was like, hey, taste this. Tell me what you think. They're like, what is it? I was like, you like it? If you like it, we need to swap barrels. So we let the other party taste it. And so what we did was we had them dump both our barrels, and so theirs was a port barrel, ours was the smoked, and so we just basically flipped and let it rest for however long. I've had 2 samples since when I was out in Texas in early April. Excuse me, got a chance to retaste it, and I'm like, yep, bottle it. because it's ready. Can't make it wait any longer. I mean, it'll be fine, but I need to have it. So so that'll be 5 distilleries for me, I think, from Texas.
Wow.
So, and I'm gonna keep going. I'm hoping Iron Root will have some good stuff for me soon, because that's one of the barrels that I definitely want to get.
Absolutely.
And then a few other ones that I'm working with that I can't speak about yet.
Yeah. Well, and I totally understand that. I don't want any non-disclosure stuff, but I actually think I got to try a sample out of the barrel from your striker, if I'm not mistaken. Moose was moving barrels around one day, and this was probably before all of that. But and he's like, "Here, try this. This is Irene's." And I was like, "Oh, Moose, he's kind of running around anyway." So he was letting me try it, which at that point it was pretty good where it was. So I can't wait to hear about how it's finished out. But yeah, I mean, to me, Texas whiskey, as you well know, it's a different breed. It's a different breed of whiskey in itself. Have you thought about blending any of the other stuff with some Texas whiskey?
Yeah, so actually one of my pet projects, which unfortunately is not going to happen for right now, because I wanted to reconstitute a bourbon, right, with all the base components. So I was going to get some malt from Andalusia. I was going to get some wheat from Lone Elm, but they're closed, which is why I put the damper on my project. And then I was going to get some heirloom corn from Iron Root, and then make it in the right proportion so that I can reconstitute a wheated bourbon. Right.
That's a really cool. And do you think that you would be able to blend it in such a way that it's like a wheated bourbon, or do you think that it would you would be able to taste each one separately?
I would imagine I would be able to. I mean, because Garrison Brothers is a wheated bourbon, right? With all of the Texas, influence. So the one thing I like about the whiskey from Iron Root is it's the closest thing to Kentucky whiskey, as far as the bourbons, right? Flavor profile wise, I think they're the closest, because of the Elevage program that they have. They really do different things. They don't do the small barrels, so it's a different profile. But I don't know. I think it's possible, but I don't have the wheat to play with anymore. So, So but I have other wheat from other people I can play with, but not from Texas. I want to recreate a Texas one. So.
Right. So what happened at Lone Elm, if you can talk about that?
I don't know what happened. I had Flambeau 2 ready to rock and roll. I mean, I formulated it. Because after when was it? Was it level 3 last year? No, it was in December. No, we went up to Cliff and I went out to a blending course with Nancy Fraley at Iron Root. So on the way back, we stopped to see Brandon, and we took a bunch of samples back. And I had, there was some really cool finishes, and so I made a blend, and I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. And then after the new year, he's like, "Yo, I'm out." I go, "What do you mean? The distillery's closed." So I'm like, "Oh, that sucks," because the Flambeau one was a really, really fun project.
Absolutely. Jason Souter actually gave me a small sample of that, and it was so good. And it's hazmat, is that correct?
Yeah, 151.
yeah. So I mean, it's that'll get you. It's not just a little hazmat; it's a lot hazmat. So. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of disheartening. But there's so many other cool distilleries out there. We're just getting off the Texas Whiskey Festival, which is, by the time this comes out, it will be old news. But there was some really great distilleries there, that I had heard of, but haven't really given them a whole lot of thought. So there's some really cool up and comers coming in the game. So
I thought I was going to be hanging out there because I was there last week, but I had to launch my Kings Coat 2, and I don't think the Crowded Barrel wasn't going to be present there. So I was like, I can't be 2 places at one time. So I had to go with what was already produced. So maybe next year hopefully we'll be back, because I made 2 blends for the Crowded Barrel already. We missed the first quarter, and so we're gonna have 2 different ones which will be really fun.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Your blending projects with the Crowded Barrel, if you can talk about that.
I think they'll release it to the Patreon, I believe. So
right.
So it's out there.
Right.
I don't know. This can anybody else watch those videos after the fact, or is it all stuck on Patreon?
Yeah. No, it's anybody can watch it. So.
Okay, so you already know what I talked about then, of the two blends.
And if need to, I can edit that out. That's not a big deal. But I mean, it's one of those things like when people know your name, and once you develop a relationship and you have that, like that'll be the story for this podcast, I guess, is developing relationships. Once you have that and you have the name in there, people want to come to you. What are some of the distilleries that have reached out to you and wanted you to do a blending project or get a single barrel from them? Can you talk about that?
So it's kind of like a two-way street kind of thing. I mean, I get samples in my store all the time, right? So when some new distillery comes in to the state, some of my distributors actually vet them before they even send them to me. Because they're like, no, you're not even good enough. We're not going to waste your time. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of nice. Because, this palate can only taste so much whiskey.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, so I get offered a lot of different distilleries stuff. But I much prefer to go find my own.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So we'll go back to the Crowded Barrel project in a little while. But so when I was out in San Francisco, also for one night, I made the best of it, and I went to a winery first. Really nice wines, and I was blending wine when I was there. I was like, just let me humor me and give me an extra glass because this Merlot is not as it's kind of flat. So I'm gonna put some Cabernet in it, and it will smell really nice. So you never know. There could be a future in blending wine too. But on the way back, I had met the night before. I was at the ADI spirits competition, kind of checking out what they do there and stuff. And I met some of the guys from a few distilleries in the area and stuff. But one in particular was Dylan from Savage and Cook. So I had their burning chair quite a few years ago. That was pretty good stuff. Wasn't completely overpriced for what it was. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool, because for me, yes, Kentucky makes, is known for most of its bourbons and stuff, but there's bourbons everywhere in the country, and people are really, doing some really fun stuff with it. So I said, well, after my winery visit, I'm going to stop in. I've got a few hours to kill because my flight wasn't until, almost midnight. So I stopped in and we started chit-chatting, and next thing you know, it was supposed to be a 1 hour meet, and 3-4 hours later we're having dinner, we're still talking about whiskey. And so what I like about what they do there is they use heirloom corn, right? Not all the time, but special projects. So one was a Bloody Butcher that I just thought was just fantastic. So I said, can I get some of it? Because it's a big batch, so they allocated to different states and stuff. But whatever is coming to Connecticut is I got all of it, the entire batch. They go, yeah, if you want it, you can have it all. I'm like, okay. So that's pretty nice. So that one's called, I think I just named it. That one is called Double Ganger because it has a twin.
Yeah. And
so the twin is also another heirloom corn. And that one's just called the Evil Twin. So,
right.
But yeah, so really, very very nice bourbons, weeded, just delicious. Very excited for it. So,
yeah, that's awesome. And so when you're picking barrels like in other countries, how hard is it for distribution to actually? Because don't they have to bottle it there, or can they send it in a tote?
No, they'll bottle it there, but they can also send it in a tote.
Right.
So, well, if you're going to keep it Scotch, you have to get it bottled there, right? But when it's in a project, it's never going to be called Scotch.
Right.
Scotch. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so I was out in Australia early in the year, also overnight. I was there for 36 hours at Starwood Distillery. Well, I was already in Asia, so it was a short plane ride over. So
Right.
stopped for the day, slept overnight, and then flew, the red eye back. So it was a 36-hour trip. But saw a lot, tasted a lot. Starwood makes some amazing single malts.
They really do.
They're like, next time you got to come and stay longer because they all play nice with each other. There's a bunch of distilleries in the vicinity, but I one track mind. I'm there to go buy Starwood, so that's what I do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing. You kind of got to pick and choose what you want for that time. It's like, man, I can always come back and talk to you about this, but I'm here for this purpose. And if you're that driven to be like, no, I want a Starwood barrel, guess what? That's what I came here to get, and that's what we're gonna do. So no, that's
it's easy to get distracted for sure, but I really have to divvy up my time between all the things that I do and give each thing that I do its proper time. So
right. And the main thing you're trying to do is present great whiskey to people that might not otherwise be able to find some. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, when you go to bars who kind of go, oh, we got a lot of good whiskey, and I look at the bar, it's like, man, there's nothing I need to drink here. Not because I'm being a snob, but if you're going to be that special, you got to have something that kind of excites me. Something that's new and different. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be not your standard run-of-the-mill stuff.
Yeah, and that's really hard for people when they're because I've done multiple episodes on liquor store mistakes, like the mistakes that people make when they walk into a liquor store, and they're because like they don't want to pick up their same bottle their dad had. They don't know what small batch means. They don't know any of this stuff. So I tried to kind of explain that. And one of the big things that I push with all that is like, take your time. Take your time and go through the liquor store, and like you're a grown person, a paying customer. Go through it and like read the back of the label. Make sure that's, if you're going to spend your hard-earned money on it, make sure that that's what you're really wanting. Now, most of the people when they go to the liquor store, their kids are in the car crying. They jump in real fast. They grab some wild turkey and they run out. That's normally how life is. But I try to encourage people to maybe spend a little bit more time in there. Maybe not every day, but a little bit more time.
Or at least, let's do a little research online first. Go, okay, whiskey's within a certain budget. This is what I want to spend for the, it's an everyday whiskey. What are the, top 3 I might want to try, and then really have that in mind. So if you have not as much time, because not every store is going to be as well trained as the people in my store be able to talk whiskey. So a lot of stores you go to, they just go kind of like, what do you want? It's like, get your whiskey and get the hell out of here. Right.
Absolutely. So, yeah. No, it's pretty crazy. But I'm glad that there is places like your place out there that are willing to, for one, give you a pour of something, but like also kind of guide you. If you really don't know what you're looking for, you're just like in awe. You have that, that shock of like, hey, there's a bunch of bottles. I don't know what to get. Yep. You have a staff that's very knowledgeable about most of the stuff that's in there. So that to me, if more liquor stores were like that, it would make it a whole lot easier for the shopper, to come in.
Yeah, it gets very expensive to be that kind of a liquor store, to have that much, much variety, and then that much training, for your crew to really kind of know what they're talking about. So.
Yeah, because I mean, you have to think about it. If you have, like on your side, if you have a store worker, they're talking to a group of people about a whiskey for 10 minutes. That's 10 minutes they could have been doing something else or helping another client. So it does have its good and bad points to it. But I think as you've said in the past, it's well worth it if you can give the right bottle to the right person.
Yes.
And so I know that all the barrel picks that you have at your shop, there. I mean, obviously some sell out. That's
in a hurry.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, like at any given time, there's probably what, 20 to 30 there?
50 and up.
50. Okay, 50 and up. Okay, so note to self: I need to make a pilgrimage, I guess, up there to look around and be like, poking stuff. But yeah, no, it's really crazy. And okay, anything else we need to talk about before we get off? I'm trying to think.
So this year I haven't done a lot of single barrels. So one of the things I started doing a couple of years ago, actually, I kind of said, you know what, before 2023 hit, I said, I think I'm going to slow down the single barrel picks, which I have, because if it's not good, I don't want it. And two, I have to have a hand in making that whiskey somehow, whether it's finishing another barrel or doing something with it. So I kind of, stuck to my guns on that. And so now we actually have whiskey that either I've made a distillery or made for a distillery. I've made gins. I made a barrel aged gin that is just amazing. If you are not a gin drinker or tell me you're not one, but you drink old fashions, I'm going to change your mind.
Okay.
But this year, the first half of the year, because I've been busy, with travels and stuff, kind of sorting out what whiskeys I want to bring in. The second half of the year, I would say from late June on, we should have probably equivalent of 10 barrels worth of whiskey coming in. So that should be that should be good. We even have not a barrel, but a batch, actually. In fact, my Savage and Cook stuff is just a batch, but it's the entire batch is mine.
Right.
They allocated to the state. But we have a batch of Pechuga, which is, I can't wait for it to show up. There's some labeling issues at the TTB, so they tossed it back. I have a Cayo barrel. I don't know what happened to it, but I know I've got my name on it. It'll show up when it shows up. So the whole thing of it with buying single barrels, when you buy enough of them, there's no need to push the distillery to go, oh my God, I need this now. I need this for OND. You know what? There's always whiskey drinking season. In fact, I have a rye barrel that's coming that is going to be named Rye January, because I'm sick of listening to dry January. So It's going to show up in November, December timeframe, so people can buy it for themselves and for gifts. And then come January, we're going to party on with Rye January.
There we go. I like the way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really nice rye whiskey from Old Elk, actually.
Oh wow! Yeah. They're doing some really cool stuff.
Oh yeah, I know. I bought 6 or 7 barrels of them. So yeah,
6 or 7 barrels. You would know. You would know. And that's the thing to the listeners. Like, if it's an Irene pick, it's going to be a good barrel, because, like she said, she's going to throw it back if it's not perfect. So that to me, that's just crazy how you can go through all that and still have sanity. Like, and then you're paying for these barrels up front, I'm guessing, and then that's a lot of money to be sitting on, and you don't know when it's going to come. Like, and is it going to be?
We don't pay for it till it gets delivered.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes it a little easier.
Unlike how they do in Scotland, right? In Scotland, when you go buy your own single barrel, they're like, yeah, 150% up front. Oh, we'll age it for 10 years, and it's going to cost you X amount. So no, I don't need to control it at that level. I would rather go pick some, like my Glen Scotia barrel was one of those. I like, I don't know, 4 or 5 Scotch barrels. It's just relationships. You build relationships with people, and that's how you have access to stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been a lot of fun, and I really enjoy you coming on here and hanging out with me for a little bit. If you would like to, why don't you give everybody your social and where people can find you?
Whisky Mentors, whiskey without the E. You can go Whisky Mentors, either Facebook, Instagram, or whiskymentors.com, which is my website. Ignore the products that are for sale there. I thought I was going to sell online so people can pick up in the store. That's just nonsense. And I probably update my posts when there's something fun going on. So it's not regular, which is how you're supposed to do it. I say, quarterly report. And then, maybe 2 weeks later, oh, this other fun thing happened. I need to tell you about it. So the thing for me is because every time I do that, an email goes out, and I hate being inundated with emails. So I really keep my email. I'm like, did you get an email from me recently? And people are like, you haven't sent one out in a while. I go, well, that's because I haven't updated. So I really try and keep it so that people look forward to my email rather than, go, oh my God, delete, So, but yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and then, of course, if you are coming up east at all, definitely, if you're going to the Cape for the holidays or driving north and south or east or west, make sure you call ahead or hit me up on social media and say, hey, we're going to be around because I have a lot of trouble coming up. August, I'll be quite busy. September, I will be busy, but hopefully in state. And then who knows, October, I can't plan that far ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If I'm not there, my manager, Jen, actually the rest of my crew, we do lessons and they've learned a lot. In fact, I try and do it once a month, but with my travel schedule, it's hard. But this Sunday, we're actually going to be doing a class. Haven't decided what yet. Last time we did Scotch. We did like 12 Scotches. We did, around Scotland. So maybe we'll do Irish whiskey. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But one of the somewhat exciting project I'm going to be working on this weekend actually is going to be going up to first I'm going to stop in Boston Edinburgh Distillery, which I'm doing some blending for them right now. But I'm bringing a single malt barrel, port barrel that had single malt in it from Virginia. Really nice port finish whiskey, and reuse that barrel to age out some of the whiskey, some of the single malts they have there. Hopefully to blend out some not so desirable flavors. And then I'm going up to Vermont to Mad River Distillery to bring out my STR cask that came from Riona. And we're going to have some fun with it. I think we talked about maybe only filling up the bottom half of the barrel, which still has the wine finish on it, and age some stuff in it, potentially some rum. Let it sit for a year or so, and then we'll dump the rum. So now the top of the barrel is going to have STR from the single malt. The bottom's going to have the rum, and then we're going to put it sideways, and then fill it with something else and let it age out for a while. So it should be fun. And then I think I'm going to make some kind of botanical rum, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's going to be a fun weekend.
Absolutely. That sounds like it. Sounds like it. To be a fly on the wall when you're sitting there turning the barrel. Oh no, too much.
Yeah. And then I'm heading out to so next week, also pretty exciting stuff. Jay Hendry out in Wisconsin. I make some really nice whiskey. So I'm going out to visit with them. So to me it's just like this. Let me hop on the plane, in the afternoon on the Friday or whatever, get there and hang out for Saturday and come home on Sunday.
There you go. That's crazy. So are you ever home? Yeah,
kinda. Well, this month I've been. What month is this? April. I've been home a little bit because I'm doing some renovations on the house, so I kind of have to be home enough to do it. Yeah, no. So the hope is I do most of my travel, and once May comes around, once I'm done with Wisconsin, I should be hanging around for the summer because it's the summer. Summer is so short here. I really want to try and spend most of my time in the summer here.
Absolutely.
In the winter, let me get me out of here. Let me go visit some of the states. Although you never know what weather you're going into. Last time I was in Dallas, it was like an ice storm. Day after the ice storm, and when I was in Denver recently, it was like hurricane force winds, almost a tropical storm winds without the storms. It was just dry and windy, so it's kind of wild weather. But just go with the flow.
Absolutely. That it's crazy. It's crazy. And then you have the different time zones, and then it just I totally screws you up.
That's why the two watches are really helpful. People, why do you want two watches? This is always Singapore time. This is always East Coast time, and then my phone is always wherever the hell I am time.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on, and I appreciate it. And guys, make sure you follow everything Whisky Mentors. And make sure you stay doing what you're doing and keep your spirits up. All right, guys, you just listened and watched the podcast with Whisky Mentors. And we have
the King's Code Batch 2. Let's get into it. Okay, so if you guys obviously already know, this is King's Code. So this is bottled by Kings County Distilling in New York, and some of their product is actually in here as well. This is a blend of 52% Irish whiskey, which is Clonakilty, right? 44% American whiskey, which is Virginia Distilling and Kings County, and then 4% Scotch, which is a little smoky gem that they put in there just to make it, give it a little bit more. So this is batch 2 called Touch of Bessie. So I'm gonna I already poured some in the glass, so I've been letting it sit for a second. Let me tell you a funny story real fast. I thank you again to the Patreons, patreon.com/the Whiskey Shaman, because they were the ones that helped me purchase this. Yeah, they helped me purchase this bottle. So, but there's a little caveat to that. I ended up purchasing 2 of the same bottle. Yeah, I'm a dummy. I meant to get batch 1 and batch 2, and I got 2 batch 2s. It's all good. I have a backup. I'm going to see if there's any more batch 1s there. We'll go from there. Yeah, but anyway, so let's get into this. I'm trying not to make this super long. On the nose, it's rich and like viscous. On the nose, it smells oily, right? But also there's a tinge, just the slightest tinge of smoke. Like, you know, if like you were outside barbecuing and your clothes kind of smell smoky, but like the next day you can still kind of smell it. It's not like cigarette smoke or anything like that. So don't think that. But then there's also a floralness to it, which is really nice. It's 59.5% alcohol, so you know it is a little proofy. This is the first whiskey of the day, so. Oh man, that's really nice. It has a, wow, it just keeps evolving. let me get through this real fast. Wow. It has a honey caramel, almost a fruit, like a pear or something light, pear or apricot, something like that. And then I'm guessing that's coming from the Irish whiskey. But then there is a lingering, just a small line of smoke, but it's not overpowering. I think anybody who tried this, they're going to like it. It's not super smoky, right? Wow. Okay. Let me go back on the nose again. Yeah, it's more of the same. That the honey is really, really pushing, and it's not like graham crackery or anything like that, which is nice. It's really floral, and it almost had like some creamy notes to it, like some you know, when you're, I don't do it, but they'll get granola and put fruit and like yogurt in it, a little bit like that, but more fruity and creamy, less granola. Like you put a little bit of granola on top of it, right? Oh man, that is excellent. That is everything you want. And okay, so it's all the good parts of the scotch, of a smoky scotch, right? It's all the good parts because you get that smoke tinge, but then it kind of envelops into, how do you put it, man? It's an intense ride. It's all those, you know, vanillas and stuff like that from the barrel, but they're just kind of amped up, and then they're like twisted and melded together very well. It's not brittle, it's not falling apart. It's just an amazing blend. And I cannot thank Irene enough for coming on the podcast and talking to us about this. I, you know, thank the Patreon again for helping me with the bottle. So yeah, if you can find it, you can go on Kings County Distilling and purchase a bottle from their website if you would like. I'll have a link down below if you want to get into that. Really good. It's really good, especially if you like a little bit of smoke. Like if you like American smoke, like Del Bach or Colkegan or something like that, it's very similar to that. It's not super peaty, right? So, as always, y'all be good, and until next time, keep your spirits up. Peace.